You can't spell the Fast and the Furious franchise without furious, and that's exactly how these two stars feel about each other. Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson just couldn't get along when they worked together, and it may have affected the fate of the franchise.
Don't talk like that.
But why is there so much animosity between them that even street racing and over-the-top action sequences can't cheer them up? We'll talk about the real reason The Rock isn't going to be in F9, and whether he and Vin Diesel will ever share a screen again.
I was hoping you'd say that.
On the surface, it's hard to imagine why Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson wouldn't be friends, or at the very least co-stars. Surely, they'd be able to bond over their undoubtedly intense workout routines and share their secrets to getting their heads so silky smooth. But alas, Vin Diesel went ahead and disapproved our theory that everyone likes The Rock. In order to understand just what went wrong between these two, we need to look at where they were at the first time they got together on a movie set.
I don't remember him.
Vin Diesel grew up as a big Dungeons & Dragons loving nerd, and we say that term with all due love, affection, and to be honest, no small amount of solidarity. He discovered a refuge in theater and struggled to get his big break as an actor in Hollywood. Diesel always believed that he was destined to be a movie star, but his conviction took quite a while to come true. But when it did, boy oh boy, it seemed like he was in every single action movie for a while. Although he clearly wasn't hurting for work, he became known for his involvement in the Fast and the Furious franchise. And the fact that he wasn't in the widely panned Too Fast, Too Furious just showed how invaluable he and his character Dom Toretto is to the movies. Finally, Diesel had found his niche and achieved a level of success he always believed himself capable of. Not only that, but he became close with his co-stars, particularly Paul Walker. Tragically, Walker perished in an unrelated car accident while filming Furious 7. And then we have Dwayne Johnson, and while we're not going to try to quantify who had an easier time of becoming famous, he was already a big name by the time he appeared in the franchise. Everyone knew him as The Rock, his wrestling persona, but he was eager to make a name for himself as an actor when he found his way into the Fast and Furious franchise.
He'll be fine. He's a professional.
Even the most ardent fans have to admit that some of the movies are certainly better than others, and by the time Fast 5 came around, the public's interest in the franchise was waning. So Dwayne Johnson came in to save the day, and was widely credited with renewing everyone's interest and saving the franchise. As you can imagine, that did not go over well with Vin Diesel, who was once the person credited with its success. There were tons of rumors swirling around that Diesel was resentful of Johnson swooping in to save the day, and that the two of them just couldn't get along behind the scenes. Fans heard that Johnson was frequently late to set, while Diesel's ego often got in the way of producing the movie. Supposedly, the two were frequently arguing with one another, and by the time the Fate of the Furious rolled around, they refused to film scenes together. Now, these kinds of Hollywood rumors are a dime a dozen, but don't dismiss them so easily. Both Diesel and Johnson have made comments revealing that there's definitely some truth to these allegations. And these comments were not subtle. Although he didn't name names, Johnson once posted on Instagram, quote, "Some conduct themselves as stand-up men and true professionals, while others don't," end quote. At least, that's the only portion of the post we can include in this video due to some colorful language.
Yep.
He added that in many of the scenes where his character is acting angry, that's not acting. It doesn't take a detective to figure out he was clearly talking about Vin Diesel. TMZ reported that these social media posts prompted a meeting between the two stars, who made a valiant attempt to squash the beef between them. Supposedly, tensions were so high on set that the cast was struggling to complete their scenes. Although we can't say what happened during the meeting, a couple of days later, Johnson made a post about family having different beliefs and how conflict can sometimes be a good thing that leads to greater understanding. But apparently it wasn't as peaceful as it appeared. A few days later, he made a post specifically thanking everyone in the Fast family except for Vin Diesel. Michelle Rodriguez, who plays Letty Ortiz, confirmed that the two stars feuded while working on the franchise during an interview with People magazine. But she made it clear that she wanted to stay out of the drama. Despite this, many fans got the impression that the majority of the cast was firmly on Diesel's side. Tyrese Gibson and Ludacris shared photos of themselves with Diesel while they were working on the Fate of the Furious. Gibson even wrote a post talking about how his relationship with Diesel made him a better man and father, and has been a huge source of strength. He added that he wished people knew just how hard Diesel worked on the franchise and how much of his heat he put into the project. Ludacris didn't caption his pic with anything juicy, but he did obviously share a cast photo that excluded Johnson. Dwayne Johnson said that he believed the issues between himself and Diesel helped the franchise, since it got people talking about it. Were these Fast and Furious co-stars just trying to add fuel to the fire, or was there a real schism at play here?
That's not possible.
Eventually, even Diesel weighed in on it, although he chose his language much more carefully than Johnson. During an interview with USA Today, he stated that, in a weird way, he and Johnson are actually pretty close. However, he described their relationship as difficult since they're both alphas.
Yeah.
He admitted that some things may have been blown out of proportion, and at the time, he felt Johnson didn't appreciate all the hard work he had put into the franchise. At one point, he posted a video on Instagram during which he promised to spill all of the tea regarding the situation with Johnson, but unfortunately for drama-loving fans, that never happened. Overall, it was definitely Johnson who blatantly weighed in on the situation, although he did agree with Diesel on some points. Johnson echoed a similar sentiment to Entertainment Tonight, admitting that they had different philosophies. He confirmed what many had suspected, which was that he and Diesel didn't film any scenes together when working on The Fate of the Furious. Johnson also came clean about the confrontation TMZ had reported on and admitted that it did happen and was important. He said that this interaction made it clear that he and Diesel simply have fundamental differences between them regarding the way they approach movie making and collaborating. Johnson said that regardless of whether they ever share screen time again, he's grateful for the clarity they achieved through their discussions. So it's safe to say that things were downright ugly on the set of The Fate of the Furious. Even though the cast and crew got through it and talks were had, it was clear that Johnson working apart from the rest of the crew would be a much better idea. That's the reason we ended up with the Fast and Furious spinoff, Hobbs Shaw. Not only was Diesel not in the movie, but Johnson had the opportunity to be one of the producers himself.
Now that we got rid of that fun sponge, we can get to work.
But not everyone was happy about Johnson still being involved in the franchise, even if he wasn't sharing screen time with Vin Diesel. Tyrese Gibson stepped up his social media posting, and this time he didn't settle for being vague or just hyping up his respect for Diesel. He straight up said that he would not be open to returning for a 9th Fast and Furious movie if Johnson was in any way involved. He called Johnson a clown and invited him to spin off a part of his anatomy we can't mention on this channel. The post also included some allegations of The Rock threatening his relationship with his daughter, so let's explain that. At the time, Gibson was involved in a serious custody battle over his then 10-year-old daughter, Shayla. On a photo of himself and director Lee Daniels, he accused Johnson of pitching the idea of Hobbs and Shaw and signed onto the project without considering the rest of the cast. According to Gibson, he was hoping for income from the franchise to help pay his legal fees and was furious about Johnson going off on his own. He even posted an emotional video claiming that he had privately asked Johnson not to proceed with Hobbs and Shaw because of how it would impact the rest of the cast. Gibson called Johnson a selfish champ and accused him of completely lacking compassion. So it's clear that Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson working together didn't go well. It also seems like a lot of cast members had issues with Johnson, or at the very least felt more loyalty towards Diesel. Gibson apparently believed that if the Hobbs and Shaw spinoff didn't happen, we would have seen a 9th Fast and Furious movie much earlier, but we have no way of knowing if that's true. As to whether or not it was selfish of Johnson to accept the role, well, we'll let you come to your own conclusions on that.
Why in the hell would you create something like that?
But let's not forget about the Fate of the Furious for a minute and talk about the fate of the franchise. We all know that the movie F9 is finally coming out and that Dwayne Johnson's character is not going to be making an appearance. By this point in the video, hopefully you've figured out why. But what about the feud? Will these two ever work together in the future, and have we seen the last of Hobbs? After Hobbs and Shaw wrapped up filming, Johnson posted a video of himself thanking his fans and co-stars and giving a shout out to Vin Diesel. He called him Brother Vin and thanked him for supporting the movie. It seemed to be a genuinely heartfelt message, and Johnson thanked Diesel for inviting him into the franchise and said that he hoped his involvement had helped elevate it. We already know that there will be a 10th Fast and Furious movie, although details are sparse at the moment. According to Diesel, he's been planning it since before production began on F9. We know that Johnson isn't in F9, but it remains to be seen if he will be involved in the final film. After all, the drama has definitely cooled down since it started, but it seems like Diesel and Johnson just have fundamental differences that make working together difficult, and many fans doubt that's something that will ever change. Plus, Diesel has said that there will be more spin-offs, including one with a female lead character. It's possible that while Johnson won't appear in F9, we will get to see him in the Fast and Furious universe again. Fans of the franchise will just have to wait to find out. What do you think about the feud between these two stars? Are you hoping to see their characters interact in a future movie, or are you fine with them staying far apart? Let us know what you think in the comments section below, and then click on the subscribe button for more videos from us here at Screen Rant. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.